Ready, kids?
Aye, Captain!
I can't hear you.
Ahoy there, mateys. It's time to set sail on another episode of Unconstitutional Awakening, the podcast. I'm your captain, Jim Bob Ogleshorts, and tonight our special guests are another group of podcaster guys that I found in that Instagram family of podcasters that I have that go by the show, the Cult of Conspiracy podcast. Oh man, this is going to be a really fun night, man. This is a pair of guys that totally come from two different walks of life, but are both in the goal of one goal, like the same mindset of one goal, and that's helping you open your third eye and, maybe see the reality of things of how they are, man. I can tell you this much is that it's going to be a fantastic conversation tonight, and the likes of Luis and Bandit are here to join me. And I am just looking forward to how this one's going to go down because I've been following these guys for a little while and they're pretty cool. But of course, you guys know that anything we talk about tonight and any links to get back to any of our guests and also how to answer the awesome questions for your Unconstitutional Awakening, the podcast stickers, you've only got to go to everyone's favorite website on the internet right now that's not going to ban you for anything, unconstitutionalawakening.com. You're home for everything Jim Bob Oval Shorts and the crew, man. Like, we've got so much going on over there. In the podcast and more section, you can find stuff from the show to my show on Red Pill Project to places that we've been guests on other shows. You can find stuff for the hosts over there, man. There's even UA Social. You guys need somewhere to go post something that you don't want to get banned for, or you got banned and need somewhere to post something that you find is important, hop on over here and post it, man. We're always willing and welcome to talk about it. While you're there, you can check out places to watch if all you do is listen, and listen if all you do is watch. We're all over so many different streaming apps, man. There's not a lack of places that you can find us worldwide. So I do appreciate you guys, of course, tuning in and making us kind of feel like we're number one. It definitely is great to have all these kind of folks all over the world checking this out, man. While you're there, you can also just check out the show on the website if you want to, give it a listen while you're hanging out and searching for some of that sweet Unconstitutional Awakening merch, because we've got all kinds of good stuff over there, from stickers to shirts to hats to towels, man. Like, there's everything working on it. One of these days, I'm gonna get this whole flag printed so that you guys can just have a copy of it for your house. But for now, you can get it on a shirt or a sticker. So make sure you check out all that stuff, and also check out our friends in Liberty: Kirk Elliott, PhD, Peachy Key Creations, Can Survival, Brett Pike and ClassicalLearner.com and Homeschools Connected, and Pure Pet Wellness, giving CBD products to all your pets out there to make them feel a little bit better about their life, like the rest of us, since we're all kind of getting into that thing nowadays. But of course, links from this episode and links from previous episodes and all kinds of good stuff can be found over there at the website. And, I try to make sure I keep up with all that stuff for you guys. So I know I can't say thank you enough, and I really do appreciate all the support you guys are out there giving us and all the interactions we get and stuff like that. We keep doing it for you, and we're just going to keep doing it for you guys. So I guess it's time to weigh anchor and set sail on this guy. So let's hop in. Good evening, everyone. So, as I was saying in the intro, I've got the hosts of the Cult of Conspiracy. Guys, if you would like to just go ahead and introduce yourself real quick and maybe give yourself a plug before we get too far into anything.
Yeah, brother. We are Jonathan and Jacob, the co-host duo of the Cult of Conspiracy. Basically, we are just your average Joe, people. I am a Marine Corps vet, and I'm also a Christian. So when I take to looking at conspiracies, I look at it through a very different point of view than my co-host, who is very much more of a spiritual, call him a hippie, call him a QHHC hypnotherapist, whatever you want to call it, because all of that's applicable.
I like to get a little bit weird.
Yeah.
I like to, the name of the slogan of this show is to open up your third eye. And
Always.
that is always what we're trying to do. And whether we do it via the Christian way, whether we do it via the Hindu way, just call it
Whatever.
spiritual.
Sure.
That's really what we aim to do for the most part.
Yeah.
And we do cover a wide range of
Oh, yeah.
a lot of conspiracies.
Like, even if we don't believe it ourselves, we'll still speak on it. If somebody provides us with enough information, we'll do a little deep dive and we'll spit on it for an hour. But we also, our big thing is listening to the opposition, right? Our big thing is listening to all points of view from all walks of life, from all angles. Like I said, me and him come from different backgrounds, but we usually arrive at the same conclusion from two different perspectives. And it makes for a very good back and forth between us, I think. Now, when you get on somebody on the show who has a completely different opinion than either of us, and we respectfully can have an open dialogue and listen to every side of every situation, it's like, look, maybe you'll teach me something I didn't know. Maybe I'll teach you something you didn't know. Perhaps, maybe a little bit of growth and enlightenment could happen at this time. You never fucking know.
We don't talk in a phone booth.
Nah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of conspiracy talk where everybody
Echo
agrees
chamber,
with
dog.
everybody, the echo chamber, right? Whereas, we kind of bring forth conflicting ideas and somehow always end up at the same conclusion.
And if we don't come to the same conclusion, we can respectfully agree to disagree. Like, it's gonna be fine.
Totally okay.
So, like, in a way, like, welcome over here for sure, because that's a lot of the ways things are over here, man. We've got a variety of co-hosts that come from all different walks of life, and we may not agree on absolutely everything to the core of things, but we found a way to have great conversations with people from all walks of life and trying to find different things about different stuff, man, from people that have come across inventions to people that have claimed to have gone to inner earth to a dude that said that he talked to Bigfoot. So, like, I mean, I'm all, heck, we even recently had a vice presidential candidate. So, I'm like all over the map. I like to just bring unity and conversation and stuff. And that's a shtick of mine in a way that I like, that everybody on the internet fights and keyboard warriors, there's no face-to-face confrontation. But when you get up here and you have these conversations about these things, you can find that these conversations go a lot smoother than they should, regardless of if people agree or disagree, because people show a little bit more respect when you're face-to-face, even if it is on a computer. So once again, I do appreciate you guys definitely joining us tonight, man. We just fly off the handle and go a little bit everywhere. I know we'll all be full of questions and stuff like that. I appreciate you kind of laying it all the way out there, though, on who you guys are.
Yeah.
I
No doubt.
I like that.
And I'll tell you what, the whole being offended and keyboard warrior bullshit, I am saying if we would enact one law, just bring back a oldie but a goodie, and we bring back traditional dueling, I believe
it's legal. It's legal to an extent, just not with weapons, but you can legally fight and have the cops supervise. That is a legal thing in several states. Case maybe Amanda knows more on that. But.
It's actually there are still a few states that allow trial by combat.
Yes, I've heard of this. However, you have to get a judge that's willing to sign off on it. Now,
I do believe Kentucky being one of them.
Right. Apparently, Louisiana, which is where we're based out of, apparently we also have that rule of trial by combat. However, good fucking luck.
But the thing is, the context of combat to what point? Obviously, they're not going to allow you to combat to the death, but allow you to combat until whoever the other guy gives up or is bleeding to the point of can't stop, keep going.
It's Thunderdome. 2 men enter, 1 man leave. I think the one most recently, and I do believe it was Kentucky, was a guy was in divorce court and he challenged his soon-to-be ex-wife to, trial by combat.
Yeah, man.
Which anybody who's been in the military understands that you go through you end up with a couple of ex-wives. You do. It's like standard practice. And if I could have challenged any of mine, gladly
Yeah, I ended
in
up
court.
so I feel you on that. And historically speaking, trial by combat did happen between husbands and wives. However,
Yes.
there'd usually be certain handicaps in place for that. Now, I was talking about traditional dueling. I meant like one-shot pistols. That was my intent.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
which president was it? Was it Jackson that actually did it while he was president and actually killed
I
someone?
thought it was Adams.
We had quite a few presidents that did that, and a few commandants of the Marine Corps.
But
When
some
I was
did it while I think Jackson did it while being president
Oh, I wouldn't doubt that.
because he was a psycho. That man was insane.
yeah, he was just down to fucking brawl. Like, call him a liar. Like, let's go outside. See you at noon. But also, it depends, like you said, trial by combat to what terms. Now, look, I do armored combat, bro. I do boo hurt fighting. So if I had another opponent who was equally geared up and we just beat the shit out of each other until one of us conceded, and that was trial by combat, look, I'm here for that fucking smoke, bro. I'm just saying.
I just literally saw a bunch of grown men and women
Yes.
in full body armor fighting each other. It was really
That's cool.
great.
That's what we do. I have a tournament coming up at South Carolina at Clemson University.
The rule was simply whoever falls first, especially when it's like a 2-on-2, and then they also do 4-on-4. It's basically when you fall, that's it, you're out.
So I'm actually competing in 5-on-5s all day of February the 3rd. And so basically it is a lot of standing judo, right? A lot of Roman Greco wrestling, a lot of Aikido as far as like body mechanics and leverage and throwing your opponent. But then there's also an element of weapons work that's involved with it, on top of wearing 85 to 100 pounds of gear and not being able to breathe or see very well. It's a good time, man.
Let's go with jousting too. I mean, why not?
I would if I had a whole
I have seen jousting before, and I went to a Renaissance festival, and it is intense. Jousting is no joke, and I enjoyed. I was just, I don't indulge in the whole the whole. Even though I am considering, as a grown man, I never thought I would do that until I went to one, and I was around them for the whole day, and I'm like, okay. I might consider this. Watching the jousting and the combat and everything in full armor, it's just,
bro.
Yeah,
the jousting next level. I have mad respect for those homeboys. However, I don't have or can afford a horse, and B, I don't want to mix the armor and the awkwardness of that with being on a fucking horse. I'm good. I want ground game. Dude.
Can we just bring back full on Saturnalia? That's all I want. All right, I want orgies everywhere, and it just to be acceptable. I want it to be acceptable. That's
okay.
Well, eventually, we're gonna get there as a society. Ever heard of Brave New World?
Yeah.
That book.
We're getting there.
It kind of points to constant orgies in the book. They're very like subtle about it.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, and the soma, we kind of have the soma. It's just too powerful right now. Fentanyl, heroin makes you happy.
We're almost to Caligula anyway.
In certain places, in certain circles, we are already definitely well past Caligula. Hell, depending on what circle you're talking about, we're full on Aleister Crowley at this point. Just saying.
I don't even know what Caligula is. I never heard of that
Caligula.
Caligula was a crazy emperor.
The Roman emperor, so crazy, in fact, that he declared war on Poseidon, led his army to the ocean to stab at the ocean for 3 days. What the fuck was that?
Really?
Can you all hear us? Can y'all hear us in there?
Yes.
What the hell just happened with our audio cut out? Could y'all hear us that whole time?
Yes.
Yes, we heard you.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, he was insane. Massive orgies, massive blood orgies. Like, there's a whole movie around this guy, and they only did the G-rated, and it's still what we would consider porn. Okay. So that guy, then you had Aleister Crowley, who was doing all of that with a massive demonic and drug and sex and esoteric side of shit. But anyway,
look,
we got off on some weird topics already. We just started in this moment.
So have you get to talking about kind of these, these orgies and this kind of the Aleister Crowley type aspect of things. Me and Luis have done an unintentional, like, 8 hours worth of recording with this guy that went really in depth with. I leave it broke down all the way back at the Frankists, but he has taken the liberty to basically outline it, and I've like followed the tracks and looked at it myself, but to outline it all the way back to Spain when they were kicking out the people that were already practicing like weird occult type stuff when the Christian thing was taken
Well, the
over
more
there.
I mean, the more when they kicked out the Moors, that was
So the Moors, yeah, but then a lot of them went on to become into like the Sabbatians in Turkey and stuff, and they went to become the Frankists, and they went to become the Jesuits and things like this. And something that was prominent in the Frankist culture and stuff like that, and these different cultures, was practicing the mystic arts, but only the bad parts of them, because if you do things that are bad, it's considered good and stuff like that. They believed in this these laws of inversion, and like orgies was a prominent thing throughout their practice and stuff like that. And they were always, whatever the prominent religion was at the time, they were that on the outside, but they were inwardly, whatever group they were at the time. Because again, they evolved with names, but you can see where the evolution kind of falls, like with each group as they grew and kind of just continued, like where each one started. And it doesn't really run dry, but they end up becoming a big portion of the Baptist community in the United States later, down the road when they start traveling over and stuff. And it's real interesting to see that. And I don't know, I just like it. A lot of people get into these cult type things, and I'm like, man, I think these guys have a big portion to do with a lot of it, and it's I don't know, it's
So
something to look into.
when you talk about the occults, especially when you're talking about that time frame in Spain, and like you had said, the Moorish people that were getting kicked out of there at the time, because if I'm not mistaken, Spain at that time it wasn't under the Fatimid Caliphate. It was the shit. If you would have asked me 10 minutes ago, I would have been able to tell you exactly what caliphate that was too. But anyway, beside the point, when the Moors were kicked out of Spain, yeah, they were kicking out the quote unquote Muslims, but also with the Muslims came their secret sects of Muslim, i.e., the Kabbalah, right? Because when the Muslim world came through and took over Egypt, they learned the secrets of the Kabbalah, very similar to the ancient Hebrews who wrote the Kabbalah as a combination of their religion mixed with the demonic Egyptian gods and all of their magic, and they made a fucked up amalgamation of it, and then boom, you have the first written documented history of black magic, or so the story goes.
What connection would that Kabbalah have with Jewish Kabbalah?
So I believe that they are one and the same, or at least maybe, perhaps, we are talking about the ancient dark magic of ancient Egypt, right? Arguably one of the first civilizations in the world, but especially in that area of the world. When the Hebrews took it and they spun it their way, they got the Kabbalah. When the Moors came and spun it their way, they got something similar. And I think they don't call it the Kabbalah. I want to say they call it it's like Kabul, which I heard somewhere that that's where the city is named from. I don't quote me on that. I'm not 1,000% on it, but basically they took it and made their own amalgamation, their own secret society, their own esoteric rite of Islam through the what I could generally refer to as the Cabal.
And that has a lot that falls along the lines of exactly what I was I guess getting at too. Like a lot of them ended up in what is now the modern day Ottoman, or was the modern day Ottoman Empire or whatever, and what's Turkey now, I guess. And that at that time in the time frame is way early in the Ottoman Empire, like way back in the line and stuff. But these Sabbatians come along, and they were outwardly Muslim but inwardly Jewish, but they were practicing this inverted Kabbalah, like this backwards version of it that was just completely, I mean, dark magic. I guess that's the best way to put it. Actually, I like the way you did put that. I appreciate that.
And I also don't want to take away from other cultures. Like, for instance, around this same time that the Moors are being kicked out of Spain, you look at what, well, real quick, gents. Can y'all hear us still?
Yes.
I don't know what's
I
up there.
think
Anyway,
it's just a headphone thing.
Anyway, you look at what's going on in the quote unquote darkness of the north of Europe at that time, right? And we still have these very Germanic tribes of people who are worshiping Odin, whether it's Woden or Odin or whatever. They basically are running off the same version of paganism. And they also have some druids that are rocking over in Britannia. They got some shit going down in Ireland. They all have their own spin on this quote unquote, I don't want to say dark magic necessarily, because I don't necessarily think the druids were using this for dark malevolent forces, but I'm not going to say that they didn't necessarily come from the same source. I'm not going to say that they are or that they are not from the same source, but you see what I'm saying. I think that when you go across the entire world, everybody's got the same basic concept down. They may call it something different. They may spin it a certain way, but essentially people have been peopling since the beginning of time, you know?
I think me and you are going to get along pretty well there, sir. Like there's so many things here tonight that
People
I
have
could
been
just
peopling. That's
100% agree
great.
with. Yeah, you know, I mean,
Bro,
these
it's
are
crazy. I look at Marcus Aurelius, as a matter of fact, Caesar of Rome at one point in time.
Yes.
You read his journal, which in reality, he probably would be horrified that it was able to be read. These were his private thoughts on shit. And if you read it today, it is so applicable to our world today, just on how people behave, how they handle situations. And you really think on it, dude, people have been peopling since the beginning of time, and they ain't going to stop anytime soon. You know what I mean?
I mean, they had even indoor plumbing at that time. So the fun part of they were using lead pipes and they were
that was what I was about to bring up.
poisoning themselves.
Yeah.
But those were the Romans. The Greeks were not that stupid. I can't remember I think the Greeks were just using iron. But
I mean, that's why they compare the fall of the United States to, Rome with better Wi-Fi and memes. I mean,
instead of lead, it's plastic, it's sugar, it's porn, it's drugs, it's everything else.
Consumerism in a nutshell.
yeah.
100%.
Well, it's all the fluoride. There's
there's a fluoride too. Yeah.
almost every food we eat
I
has
forgot.
formaldehyde in it.
It's not just the consumerism, it's the fact that it's forced calcification of our pineal glands, because we are consumers who have no choice but to buy poison to put into our bodies. Let's not keep that one on.
I'm buying.
I mean, they're
spraying.
spraying. They're spraying us with heavy metals. I mean,
well, I was going to bring
everything.
I was going to bring that up. I was talking to a friend of mine from another podcast the other day. His name's Ghost. He runs the My Third Eye podcast. I was on with him recently, and we kind of brought up the food poison part of it. And I was like, well, yeah. I was like, when you have all of your biggest tobacco companies in the world buying your Nabiscos and your Crafts and everything else all throughout the 80s, like, of course there's all kinds of great things crammed into your food. Like there's
Addiction experts.
I definitely promote doing as much as you can by yourself and trying to shop local and trade off and stuff like that yourself. Cause like that, man, going into that public grocery store is a chance nowadays, to be real with you. There's so much crap that's just ridiculous. It's not even real.
True. It's very true.
I would just like to make a statement here.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So I know we all look at the Kabbalah, a bunch of these other things. We look at them like they're horrible, dark magic things that we shouldn't fuck with. I am somebody that is on the other arm of that. Now, I believe, first of all, I think that there's just one force. I don't think there's good forces. I don't think there's bad forces. I think there is just one force. Think of Star Wars. They use
the force.
They use it for the good. They use it for the bad. It's all about the person actually using it. Now, whenever we're talking about the Kabbalah, yes, it may have some dark magic type shit in there, but there's also a lot of light magic. There's a lot of light magic. And if you really want to think about it, all spiritual books have that. It's not just the Kabbalah. You can look at the fucking Bible and I'm sorry,
really?
I didn't mean to say fucking Bible.
No, you're fine.
You can look at the Bible and I'm sure, dude, there is a whole different version of the Bible that is strictly for the Masons, for them to be able to read and code. They have learned,
and confirm.
Correct.
and they have learned how to read it in a totally different way than what you read it.
Yes.
Right?
That's
So
not
it is
100%
encoded.
true.
It is encoded. Yes, there's a Masonic Bible.
Yes, of course there is. But
There's also direct translations, which are also read differently, because you can look into how ancient Hebrew the translations in many respects because of like even the order. Simple example: when you read Japanese and you read it like directly, it doesn't make sense because the word will be opposite of the order of which you generally conceive of the sentence. And those elements alone, now put in 5,000 years of history and all that, you get problems. That's why the King James Bible is probably very far from what the book says.
So I hate to interject, but I would like to say here's the great thing, I guess, that's throws people in off the wall about me. Everything that you said to begin with down there, bud, I was 100% in agreement with, but everything that he's over here saying now, I'm 100% in agreement with. Like, I believe there's good and bad to the whole, like you kind of said, the whole force thing. Like there's a balance of the what the hell's going on there. And
well, it depends on the soul of the person. It depends on your intentions on how you're going to use it.
I'm just talking about as far as like the aspect of the magic that some people call dark magic is still totally the same magic that even Jesus would have used. And people are like, what? And people are like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I get underneath people's skin on a regular basis, but and no offense to anybody, but like with being like,
I respectfully disagree with that point, but I am willing to listen to where you're going with this. I find it fascinating.
Absolutely. Jesus was gone for what, 32 years before he popped back up in the Bible. And he was going around the world studying at all of these mystery schools, just like all of the other ancient mystics have done.
The only two sources that ever say this about him are in the Quran and in the Talmud, both of which were trying to negate his teachings. Gonna throw that out.
Maybe, but I still totally think he was a traveling Buddhist that was a lot browner than any of us sitting here.
Fact, he was not white. He was
No.
Like,
I'm sorry, where did Jesus go for all of those years?
That's right.
Back. Who was he with that whole time? There's rumors that he was with
they think he also went to India. And that's why there's so many elements of Hindu traditions in his teachings, which is very well connected to it. So, and in relationship to the white Jesus, it was based off Constantine, the emperor, the Roman emperor, in the year 400-ish. I believe that's what the image of Jesus is based out of.
If I'm not mistaken, the portrait, the actual painting that we think of Jesus with the white robe and the long hair and the super whiteness with the blue eyes, it's actually like Prince Bartholomew of Portugal.
That's a more modern, but I forgot what time period is that.
1400s, 1500s, some shit like that. And it just
the one he's just like this, like with the blue and the white.
Right. It's just a fucking white dude with long hair. They're like, that's obviously Jesus.
Borgia something, I think. But anyway, yeah, dude, I think that all of it really is all connected. All Jesus was, in my opinion, I can relate it back to the tarot, although he was, of course, alive before the tarot, if you want to say that. I think that that he's the fool. That's it. He's just the fool. He was taking the fool's trip. And I think that, anybody who is in search of any kind of spirituality is on a fool's trip. That's what we're on. It's the path of the fool.
So I'm not gonna lie. I know that what you said probably wasn't meant in a negative light, but I also don't know much about the tarot deck. So like, I know you weren't calling Jesus a fool. I know the fool is like a traveling card and it means all kinds of things. Like, I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I don't mean.
I will point out the knee-jerk reaction. I'm just kind of like, the fuck?
Yeah. He's not the fool. I'm not saying a fool like an idiot.
I know
I'm saying like a fool as in like, oh, I don't know, man. I'm just here to learn, kind of deal. And I'm just going along my path wherever my spirit takes me. I'm gonna learn and I'm gonna do whatever it is trying to show me. That's the fool.
I still stick to my beliefs as far as what history showed us of who the dude was, but respectfully agree to disagree with you, gents.
I'm just saying there's a lot of time that wasn't written down.
No doubt.
And
I believe he was a carpenter in Nazareth, doing his thing, being like perfect and shit. That's just
right. But I mean, there are differing beliefs here. I mean, he is I
don't know, but
you're a Christian.
There's 30 years that we really don't have a record. I don't know.
But also we come at it from very different angles as far as that goes. I personally don't believe that God sent down a man in human form and turned into God in human form or anything like that. I think he was just somebody who learned a lot of things along the way. And I think that if you prophesize about something for several hundred years and then somebody is finally born and you tell them that he's the savior, well, I mean, I guess you can probably call him the savior. If you tell me that I will be a millionaire,
Okay.
I'll be a millionaire one day, and you know it. All four of you.
Okay.
If everybody has just such strong belief that I'm going to be a millionaire,
Sure.
I will be on the path to being a millionaire.
Well,
That's how that works.
on the day where you die, come back to life and walk the earth for 40 days and then like just float up into heaven, witnessed by thousands of people that we have their firsthand accounts. At that time, Jonathan, you got my attention, brother.
I also don't believe that he was the only person to ever resurrect.
No, there's actually multiple accounts of that.
And so I don't know. I mean, we're just very different in our beliefs, but
We're all
it's a
over the
beautiful
place.
thing. We always find somewhere in the middle.
Well, with the resurrection, it was more based off the account of the brutality of his torture. That's
for
really
the 40 days after he came back to life, the time that he spent on earth and what he did with that time is witnessed by thousands of people. This is over a month after he died on the cross and the whole thing and the stuff. But anyway, moving on, gentlemen. So y'all's show is primarily based around just kind of whatever comes off the top of your head. Are we talking conspiracies? Are we talking government? What is y'all's typical vibe?
All the above, sir. Like that's just kind of where it goes. We might hit on something that just is kind of off the wall and in current events, or we dive
I
into
think
weird
we've only had a
conspiracies.
few shows where there were actual like focused talking points.
Yeah,
Where y'all all based out of?
I'm down in Georgia.
Word?
Kentucky.
Oh, Narnia. Cool.
New York. I
Oh.
need to escape.
I was like, wait, time out. Which part of New York? Because that might be okay, or it might really.
Oh, he's not in the okay part.
He's not in the.
I
okay
mean, Bushwick, Brooklyn. Yeah, somebody I know recently they beat the fuck out of them and then they broke their face. 2 18-year-old pieces of shit.
Yeah, Brooklyn be
part.
wild.
It's always something interesting. And then like
And it's
the rest,
lower crime rate than Manhattan. That's the crazy part.
And
It's way lower here.
And we've got one of our hosts is in Carolina, one's in Florida, and one's in California. So we got us kind of spread all over the country here.
Oh, how'd y'all even hook up to start a show like this? Being from all over God's green.
Memes.
So me, Bandit, and Neptune came together because of memes, and then Neptune introduced us to Ox. I introduced him to Kel. We found Luis along the way, and then recently picked up Caitlin because we needed a female voice to voice a few opinions on here that she, she's good to have that voice to voice some of those opinions sometimes, so we don't get too frowned upon when we get into a rant about something about men's rights, because it's just so wrong to be a man nowadays. So
Not gonna lie, dude. With the whole Brittany Griner episode that we did, I thought for sure we were gonna see a little dip in listens. I thought the women that listen to our show was gonna get mad. No, like the women that listen to our show, like, their brains are working just fine, and they're aware, like, female athletes, like, no one really gives a fuck about them. I'm sorry.
I mean,
Aren't they potentially intersex, and that's why
Is that the case?
I read it? They were
I've-
intersex.
I've seen so I've seen some stuff recently about that.
I mean,
that
intersex
blew my
can make
mind.
sense. There's people like that are intersex.
Not only was there an intersex thing, but there's a child scandal and some crap that she was playing basketball in Russia this entire time too. Like it was.
But yeah, she was
making.
making great money. That's why she was making a lot more money playing in Russia than she was making in the U.S. That's why they were there.
One of the Ball brothers, wasn't he playing in Russia for a bit?
You know who's making a lot of money right now? Victor Boot.
Oh my god, dude! Victor Bout is making that cheddar right now, and or hanging in a jail cell somewhere in the gulag. We're not 1,000%. It's either really good or really bad for him right now.
Oh, I guarantee he's not in the gulag.
He's doing great.
I think he's doing.
I guarantee he took all of that equipment that we left behind in Afghanistan.
He already found a buyer.
Guarantee he already found a buyer, which would be the people in Ukraine.
Now I want to throw something
fighting
out.
the Ukrainians.
We'll talk about conspiracy. Now we did an episode on the hastiness of the Afghan withdrawal and why American government would just walk out like that, leaving how much was it, like $1.9 trillion?
A lot of money.
No, 89 billion. But there's a
$89
list.
billion.
There's a list of the equipment you can find. It is ridiculous. The majority of the equipment will break. So that risk was not that big. But the small arms, there was a lot of small arms.
They left
and
behind
those they can't
man
use.
pad. They left behind explosives, man pads, AT4s, everything. Who gives a shit about the vehicles? You know, those are garbage without the proper maintenance.
Agreed.
You're talking about like small arms, belt-fed weapons, large caliber sniper rifles. You left behind all of that stuff. That can be rerouted and transported anywhere in the world on board a, single engine cargo plane.
Facts, but hear me out. You're saying that the equipment is not all shit unless you have the proper maintenance. Well,
The vehicles. I'm talking about the vehicles.
all right, that's what I'm saying. I am saying
Oh,
that
yeah.
out could get the parts and materials to get the maintenance up and running on all this equipment and then sell it to Russia for pennies on the dollar.
There really wasn't that many aircraft and vehicles left behind. It was mostly small arms weapons, large caliber weapons, explosives, man pads.
$923 million worth of aircraft.
That's what I'm worried about. The trucks.
That's
dude,
a few aircraft.
The thing is, the aircraft, 78 aircraft. The thing is, they all break down. And the thing about it is, there was a deal that was done a few decades ago, and the U.S. sold weapons to this country, but then they took out the maintenance package, so they all started to break. Because without the maintenance package, those parts and the expertise, that is very well kept secret.
So this in itself, again, I know it's CNN, but I mean, even if these numbers are even close to right, they're talking about 9,524 air-to-ground missiles. They're talking 96. It says that there's over 40,000 of the military vehicles that were there are still there, and then they're talking about 300,000 weapons that are still there, and 1 million plus specialty munitions still there. Like, that's
for Russia, who is sending in 55-year-old pawpaws with a Mosin to the front line. I bet they take those weapons and have a little bit of a field day with them, at least for a couple of months until they run to shit.
12,000 Humvees.
Yeah,
Humvees are garbage, man.
Humvees are fucking trash. You gotta understand.
I know
garbage, man. Garbage.
Yes, but I'm just saying that's still a lot of fucking.
But hear me out.
That's why they left them behind. It wasn't worth picking them up.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what branch were you in?
I was Army.
Okay, so I was Marines. So hear me out, though. I saw something online that they were selling back these Humvees that were overseas. They were selling to boys for $5,500. Would you buy one of those Humvees for $5,500? Because
there was one just for sale. There was one just for sale up the road at a used car dealership that was a high back communications, like a soft 998. It would have been an M998 softback or 1101 or whatever high back maintenance vehicle that was completely gutted and redone. They only wanted like $12,000 for it, man. I mean, it had like 4,000 miles on it, but I'm still thinking, like, I'm having like flashbacks. Like, right. I'm like, this thing is going to break down and, I'm not going to have the parts to fix this. Still have the original.
Up that exhaust to start this bitch one fucking time. I'm throwing it in the ditch.
I mean, it had the high snorkel on it. It was nice, but I'm thinking, I'm like, those Detroit diesels were notorious for like requiring so much maintenance that it's just not even worth it.
AM General is the manufacturer of most of those vehicles, right? The American. Who is currently AM General like supported by? Who is there? I completely forgot. It was a GM that supports AM General.
Yes.
Who is that? Who is it? GM supports AM General, the military division.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, As far as the vehicles go, I'm not worried about that. The weapons, the explosives, the anti-air weapons, the mortar rounds, the artillery.
They can shoot down the commercial airplanes out of the sky. That's the fact.
The thing is, it's like with the weapons we've sent into Ukraine, only 30% of the weapons have reached the Ukrainian forces on the front lines. Everything else has been split off. They found Javelin missiles. They found
they're in Serbia and Kosovo.
They're in the Balkans. And they found the UK version of the Javelin already in the Balkans. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Now, I will say this much also to anybody who is keeping up with the war over there. Now that the Ukrainians are fucking with the HIMAR artillery system, they've got a lot more reach and they're doing a lot of damage to the Russians. However, I want to bring this caveat, and either side of the conspiracy fence you're on this, take that with whatever grain of salt you want. That HIMAR does not fire without the United States DoD's thumbs up.
If we are running the entire operation, that's not a question.
NATO is running the operation. We're even though we're 70% of NATO, NATO is still running that operation. Russia is not fighting the Ukraine. Russia is fighting NATO by proxy right now.
Who's the other private military? I forgot. There's something with a G.
Wagner Group.
The Wagner Group. And the commander of the Wagner Group, or one of the commanders, is seeking asylum in Norway right now.
I know, isn't that a bitch? Yeah,
I would also we'll go ahead and bring up the laser designator that was recently captured by the Ukrainian forces from the Wagner Group. It sits on top of your Kevlar, and it will tell you from which direction and distance you're being lased by a laser rangefinder or any type of like a PEC-2 or whatever they use now. I've been out for a bit. Any type of
I'm looking for
laser rangefinder right now. Yeah, any type of IR or daytime laser rangefinder. It'll tell you distance and direction. In Russian. It'll be on top of your Kevlar, and you just be walking around. It'll tell you where you're getting lased from. At the same time, U.S. forces and NATO forces are relying strongly on laser range-finding optics.
Yeah.
You know? So to say that the Russians are just some like caveman military, I want to throw it out there because, and I don't want to come off as I'm rooting for Russia because I sort of and sort of not, you know, I don't know. I don't think the Russian forces have shown their actual claws yet. You know,
I think they have. That they're that. I think they're that broken. I think they're that broken.
I don't think
they have. I mean, look at the history behind Russian tactics, man. You're going to throw the garbage at them and
they've lost their best. So. That's the thing. You lose your best with time.
Hold on. Pause. Let's look at the history of Russian tactics over the past 300 years. They have never gone to war with any other country and come home without losing 500,000 men in the last 300.
Right. That's a gimme. There's going to be extreme losses.
Right. Exactly. They're completely comfortable losing 500,000. They're currently just breaking over six figures right now. Pause.
Yeah.
Okay. Secondly, I think the Russians they had the potential at one time. Everybody thought they were the world's second strongest military because on paper, when you look at the amount of funding going to their military, when you look at the amount of quote unquote equipment that they allegedly had, men, armor, weapons, ammo, whatever. When you look at it on paper, they looked like the second strongest military.
Yeah.
Problem is, no one in the entire Russian military prior to this invasion, from the private to the general, had ever been shot at.
Exactly. Since Chechnya.
I would even argue to say since Afghanistan, and then we could have the conversation about Crimea, even though that was like the entire thing was taken over in a couple of days. So not exactly what I would consider a bunch of experience kicking doors, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So when the Russians came up against an equally unequipped and unready force, they had that initial success and they pushed through. But once NATO started giving Ukraine the backing, they've started pushing back, and it's pretty much gone to a stalemate now that's going into the winter. But when you look at the history of Russia, dude, they are kind of a paper tiger. Everybody thought they were some big bad guy because everybody still got the red fear from the Soviets.
And China's paper dragon, like they also have nothing. There was two recent exercises determining if China were to invade Taiwan. I know you guys heard about it. And in both situations, China lost horrifically.
Horribly.
Yes, it didn't go well for Taiwan. I'm not gonna like make it simple. But the fact that Japan is already working to develop nuclear weapons, the fact that South Korea is also working the process to build nuclear weapons. Japan said once, I remember a while back, this is before all these wars, we could have a nuclear bomb in 3 months. We just have to get basically the okay from the US government, because according to the treaties they have, they cannot develop nuclear weapons. But they have one of the strongest naval fleets on Earth, and most people don't know that. The Japanese cannot have a standing army, but the navy they have is superior to the most of the planet.
Now, we also need to take into account that China, while they are a paper dragon in a certain regard, economically, currently, they're a juggernaut. They have put their.
That's the fascinating part. There was a recent report showing that the majority of their economy has not grown since like 2016, and they've been faking everything. Okay, it's fascinating.
And I brought this up before on our show. In 2016, when the oil market dropped, right, American companies operating in Afghanistan, like Chevron in Angola and Nigeria, they pulled out because they couldn't afford to keep their people there. When they pulled out, dude, China moved in. Chinese companies, all owned and ran by the CCP, of course, they came in. Every industry around the world that America or the first world has had to take a step back from, China was right there to pick it up for pennies on the dollar. That being said, economically, China is something to be reckoned with currently. However, when you look at their population chart, when you look at their GDP growth, when you look at all of the other factors that play into it, dude, I do not see China, unless some very drastic changes happen on a very deep cultural level. I don't know if they'll survive the next 15 years. I don't see Canada surviving the next 10. I don't see China surviving the next 15. I really don't see Russia surviving this encounter with Ukraine and with NATO, to be completely honest with you, unless they take a big old bite of some humble pie and go home while they still have a home to go back to. There's a lot of shit going on around the world. Turkey's about to invade Syria, right? And no one's going to stop them because we need Turkey's approval to get Finland and Sweden in NATO. So they're pretty much just going to keep their mouth shut and let them take over some territory in Syria. There's genocides going on all over the country. Nobody gives a fuck about that because it's not what's being pumped on the mainstream media. It's a lot of shit, man. There's so many levels that play into so much shit around the world at any given time. It's wild. Well,
technically, you're literally kind of describing parts of World War III. It's just the power shift that are going to happen afterwards. By 2030, you're right. I would say a portion of these countries will.
But they say China was supposed to have a population collapse. I mean, their population.
By 2050, it'll be potentially 600 million. By 2050, that's how bad
it implode by half in the next 20 to 30 years.
Yeah, because of that law that for only one child. You look at their population chart, anyone from 20, usually if you have the upward pyramid, that's a good thing for one thing or another. When you have the downward pyramid, that's good for one thing or another. Whenever your population is straight up cylinder and it's equal on both sides, that's when things are bad, because stagnant in the world of money and economics is not a good sign.
No, I mean, they're like this right now.
But
they're like this.
Is going to be a cylinder.
But you want to be a cylinder, actually. You want to be a cylinder. You don't want the diamond.
You want ebbs and flows. You want some growth. You want some drop. You want a little bit of ebb and flow.
But you want basically as little amount of old people as humanly possible. I think you don't want the old people. That's literally just the economics of it. You don't want old people. You want them to basically. You want it as an economy. You want people to die in their 60s. I'm just telling you, that's what they want.
Raise the age of the working class to where the old people are still being taxed for their income. Now that's the chef's kiss right there for the fucking Treasury Department.
Can I just
for sure?
I want to make a point here,
brother.
I know that we all get kind of sucked in with all this Russia and Ukraine and who's the good guy, who's the bad guy.
Both are equally shitty.
Can we just not forget something so quick? What we shouldn't forget is that there has been propaganda on this shit since day one.
Oh, dude, before
yes.
Every every single thing on TV has been nothing but propaganda, from video game clips showing that this is what's going on in war.
The
Talking about
Ghost of Kiev.
the Ghost of Kiev. It's all fiction.
Snake Island, go fuck yourself. That whole 9 yards. It was all
That's-
complete bullshit.
Snake
That's been
Island
since
was
the
pretty
beginning of-
elaborate.
That's been since the beginning of time, though, man. There's been propaganda put out against anything going on in the world. I would like to make a remark. We may get caught up in everything, but I would like to say that don't forget that Jeffrey Epstein didn't hang himself.
Right. Well, there's that. Yeah, he
That-
definitely didn't kill himself. But I think he's just one of many. I don't
Oh.
even. I mean, I'm sure there's so many islands, dude. That's why whenever we look at a map, we don't know what the fuck we're looking at. We don't know how
But
big.
they just moved islands. That's all they did.
Tell you what,
Exactly.
talking about looking at a map. Let me tell you about Antarctica, sir.
Okay.
Oh, brother, let me tell you about some Antarctica shit that I done stumbled upon here recently. Okay, so
Awesome.
I told you I had a friend of mine that worked at that dig site in Miami, right? Allegedly, it is the earliest known human activity of like a civilization that we have on the North American continent. They're
How old now? How are you? How old?
11,000 BC.
No, we found 60,000. So
Hold on.
it's probably a new one, but I think we found 60,000 in the Americas.
We did, but
Or
that's
20,000.
That's earthen mounds. I'm talking about clay pottery. It's like the type of artifacts they're finding. This is like
Okay. They found artifacts from 11,000 years ago because they found bones from like older, but that's great.
Yeah, so they think that this was actually a trade hub that was going down in the absolute middle of downtown Miami right now. Long story short, this company who had all these college kids basically going out to the site and digging with very little PPE, knowing full well the site was laced with arsenic, and that's why all of their employees were constantly sick, and they let them keep going regardless. They didn't care. They were paying them, and they were only working like in 60-day rotations. So like,
This company's gonna get sued into oblivion. Where was this? In Miami?
yeah. But here's the double whammy on that one, brother. So look, that same company has 130 different categories of different positions open right now to go to Antarctica for 6-month rotations.
How much
Yeah,
are they paying? Because I need to run away for a bit. How much are they paying?
I'm just saying, if that's the type of safety protocols that they're okay with, I don't want to go to Antarctica where the fucking air will kill you, and that's what they're okay with getting away with. I'm just saying, dog. I'm straight in the bayous of Louisiana. You know what I'm saying? I'm a bitch with the cold. To be honest with you.
I don't like the cold either.
Oh, dude, if it's below 60, I'm pissed.
I mean, it's below zero. It's below 60, zero.
That's why I came back home whenever I lived in DC for 4 years, bro. I came back. I don't want to live north of I-10 again.
I think
wanna
it gets so cold. If you expose your teeth, you can shatter them.
I had a friend of mine living down here, went up to Chicago. She was a traveling nurse. She gets there in the middle of their blizzard that they had a couple of years ago. And the news was like, hey, by the way, make sure you wear a bandana over your face or something so the air doesn't collapse your lungs. I'm like, I'm sorry. Did you just normally say
Was
that?
that Winnipeg? Winnipeg, Canada or something?
Chi-town, dude. Chirac.
Yeah, that was in Northern Illinois. I grew up in Northern Illinois for most of my life. That is not uncommon, and it's just
Why do human beings live there?
yeah. I don't know.
Water, trade, money, drugs.
Okay, so two of the things you just said is bullshit. Weather and trade. The weather is shit, and that means
No, water, trade.
My bad. Fine, you got me on
I
the
said water, not weather. No, weather is not fun.
weather. Like what kind of Arctic tribes live in these places, bro? But anyway,
Just the wind. You seen videos of old ladies almost flying away, and people having to grab them because they're literally gonna just fly
Man,
off.
I lived up near. I lived and worked near Lake Erie in Buffalo, New York, for a time, and
Buffalo gets some real cold.
there was some times that I remember standing out there that the wind would pick up that I would have to grab on to the. I worked for I pumped gas at a service station there, and I had to hold on to the fucking pump because my little tiny ass was getting swept out from underneath my feet, swept out from underneath me because I'm a little ass dude. So like these wind gusts up here just regularly coming off the lake that are negative degrees in the middle of winter, just blowing my ass all over the place. So yeah, I can attest to that shit, and I'll never do that again. Like I'm good. It's a cool place to visit during the summer and spring, but I'll stay down here where I am in the south because it's nice and toasty.
They send soldiers that are stationed in Alaska. They send them to Fort Drum, New York for cold weather training.
Yeah.
We got sent to Fort Plymouth, was it? It was somewhere in bumfuck nowhere, Delaware, and that's where we did our winter training.
Yeah.
2-week playing in the snow bullshit. Where we learned how to build an igloo, and then was like, all right, hold on, we can pimp this out. We can make this work. You know how it is with that grunt life. You make things work. But anyway, so what I was saying though, Antarctica already has a lot of controversy around it, right? Just as a object to
whole.
Do what now?
As a whole.
As a whole, you look at the Antarctic Treaty, you look at the reports of Admiral Byrd who flew over it, you look at the alleged portal to Hollow Earth, you look at the alleged ice wall for the flat Earth community out there. There's so many different stories to what Antarctica actually is, quote unquote. The fact that this company is sending this many people out there right now, knowing that they don't give a fuck about safety or PPE, is really interesting to me, bro.
Well, Antarctica is interesting because it is the cog in the machine as far as being able to circumnavigate the globe from north to south. And so, yeah, anybody can circumnavigate from fucking east to west, and it'd still be a flat Earth. That's still a possibility.
Wait, you mean Arctic? Antarctica? There's not that many planes that fly.
Have you guys seen this one?
So they don't fly by Antarctica for a very easily understood reason. The dangers of crashing mean if they crash in water, you can be salvaged. If you crash in Antarctica, you're dead. So it's a mix of that. The same thing happens actually in a few countries in the world that are very mountainous. For example, Burma, I believe it's such an isolated country. Bhutan. So Bhutan has one of the most difficult airports on Earth. And to get to Bhutan, you pass by a certain area that mountains are so high, pilots don't want to fly there. So that's part of the reason you don't fly over Antarctica. It's because if you fail, you die. Well, in the ocean, they can rescue you if you potentially crash, or like crash land on water, you could survive.
What I mean by circumnavigation, it doesn't have to be by airplane. You can fucking swim it, walk it, fly it. I don't give a shit.
It's possible to make
the actual possibility, even if you send a drone or something, some kind of robot.
Now,
I just want to see that.
Look at this picture. Now, I've brought this up before too. Now, to the flat Earth community out there, this is a picture showing that the globe is a little bit bigger than what we've been given to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? In all honesty, I would actually give this more credence than the flat Earth model. This makes way more sense to me because it still accounts for how gravity fucking works.
I like this, but yeah, gravity's bullshit. But I want to.
What's this one from? I've never ever seen this. So explain to me. What am I looking at?
I'm not even 100% sure. It's been circulating for a little bit now, not too long, but it claims to be some kind of old document.
It's a breakdown of what the alleged, supposed actual map of the globe is. They believe the Pangea wasn't just what we thought it was. Antarctica is, in fact, an ice wall that surrounds these continents, and it makes it seem like we're on a flat Earth. In reality, Antarctica is the ice wall that holds out the rest of the fucking globe.
I mean, there's 100 other problems with that, but still interesting. Somebody potentially came up with this one, but yeah, there's 100 problems with that.
Agreed.
We could all be also in a simulation in a computer. So there's that.
Makes your theory hold way more credit than I would like to admit to. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, simulation holds more weight than flat Earth in any given day, because
they are
problems in reality.
But they're one and the same, really.
How?
Because simulation Earth is geocentric based and done, say, for like the GTA is a simulated Earth, and that's done on a flat plane.
But
if you're living in a simulation, they can make it whatever they want to make it.
Yeah.
But you're also it's because you're debating on physics and other elements of reality. I think that's where there's a differentiation. I mean, Jim Bob mentions we are just in a traveling turtle hurtling through space inside the turtle, hurtling through space on our way to another planet. And this consciousness of the individuals need to stay awake. So we're currently in a system awake, and we have to live our lives normally, as it takes hundreds of years to get to that star system.
He says it prettier than I do.
And when we get there, simulation ends and we exit the machine.
Let's not let this detract from the fact that the great flying spaghetti monster made all of this. May his noodly appendage reign forever. Ramen.
Yeah, I love the turtle theory. That's actually brilliant. I have a couple of turtles myself. And
No shit. Yeah, I bet you do
dude,
love
I
that
mean,
theory.
turtles are a part of nature. They got the whole what is it?
Every
All the
culture
circles.
reveres them. Every culture reveres turtles.
Yeah, dude, there's definitely something to it. But yeah, dude, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm a true flat earther. All right. I think that as far as flat Earth, I think that gravity's straight up bullshit. Let me tell you why.
Then
I'm
explain
going to give you an
this.
example. I will happily explain. I'm
go
actually
ahead.
so happy that you even brought that up,
Please
sir.
do, sir.
And for those just listening, that was Jacob just dropping
dropped a
something
vape.
to a table and claiming that there is some kind of fucking electromagnetic force pulling it down.
Not at all. I agree that there's gravity. Nothing having to do with electromagnets at all.
Some kind of force. We'll just say that.
Okay.
All right. So here's the problem. Helium, right?
Yeah, it's
and I
lighter
know
than air.
a lot of people will say, yeah, I heard this one before. But I'm going to reverse engineer this.
No, I'm listening.
So why does helium rise and why is it not being pulled down by gravity, in your opinion?
Okay. Do you want me to give you an opinion or a math answer? Because
Sure.
both are correct for me.
Sure.
Because if you look at the periodic table of elements, which we know to be factual because it is math that we can recreate and redo over and over and over again, it's completely not
A scientific method.
It's a scientific confirmed periodic table of elements. That being
Okay.
said, helium is lighter than oxygen, carbon, argon, and all the other gases that are on our level of Earth. So they rise. They are literally lighter than the atoms that they are around.
Yes.
Okay. Next.
Great. Reverse engineering that. So you're saying that this helium balloon right here that is too light for gravity to pull down,
Yes.
I can make the exact opposite argument. As for the reason why it's being pulled down is nothing to do with any kind of gravity. It is simply heavier than the air that it is falling through and thus coming to the ground.
We can agree.
That's the exact opposite. Now, you don't need a gravitational force for that.
You do, because what's to say what's heavier or lighter? What's to say what the object's mass?
The gravity that dictates direction.
But it also dictates how much it weighs, right? So, like, if I was to put this in a vacuum, it's going to weigh more or less than if I was to
Well, it dictates to an extent because there is constant. So we determine by a certain amount of newtons is the determination of the force towards the Earth, and depending on your altitude from the Earth to the sky, the force of that gravity dissipates with altitude, and those two elements, it's mass. The answer would be mass determines that. And because helium is very low mass and relationship to the environment around it, that's why it floats. Same thing when you go underwater and you have something that has air inside of it, which is lighter in density than water, it will go up. But you can do something like shooting a gun underwater, and you will notice the bullet will stop very quickly because of the opposing forces. That's 800 times denser in the water than it is above.
Agreed.
Right,
And I believe that
right.
all that mass has to do with the gravity.
Yes.
Mass has to do with what the object inherently holds within itself. Inertia is another property.
Here's my question about the mass and the direction of which it will fall.
Okay.
I mean, they always say that the fastest way to get anywhere is a straight line, right?
Sure.
And so if something is falling,
yeah,
I mean, why would it fall any other direction than straight down? That is the most commonsensical thing anyway.
But if gravity's not pulling it down, how's it falling?
What's that?
If gravity's not pulling it down, how's it falling?
It's falling because it's just heavier than the air that it's going through.
But there's a factor of inertia along the route of a throw. There's an element of inertia that pushed it forward.
My question is this. You're right. The air that is around this vape, as we are standing right now, it is lighter than the vape itself, correct? When I drop this, why does it not slam against this wall? Why does it not slam against the roof? Why does it slam towards the ground?
Because there is no force.
I didn't say anything about force. I'm talking about holding it just like this and I'm letting go. Why does it go down instead of that way? Whenever the air on this side of it is lighter as well. It's because gravity from the earth being a massive fucking ball is pulling it down.
I'm going to disagree on that.
That's how physics works.
I'm going to disagree on that.
Okay.
And it's fine. I mean, I get why people would have differing views on that. All I'm saying is, dude, is that you got to look at where we're getting all this science from, where we're getting it all from. It's all, we're getting it from fucking people who have the money
But-
to.
But the thing is, you also have to understand that it's from thousands of years of observation from the human race in relationship to our comprehension coming from multiple cultures. So, from billions of humans that have been on Earth, which we estimate was 109 billion just humans that have lived on this planet, based off the idea that humans started to come to the Earth 300,000 years ago, is when humans were started to become present on the planet. About 109 billion of us have existed. And throughout the history of the human race, there's been a consensus and a lot of elements in relation to science. And if you want a good barometer, just look at ancient Chinese. Like, they were very knowledgeable, and they lost a lot, actually, in the Cultural Revolution, which is very sad.
Yeah. It's actually fascinating to look at cultures, especially within our written history, that you can go and look. For instance, well, I guess this is borderline written history. You look at the ancient kingdom of Put that we know that Egypt traded with for so long. We don't know anything about them, but we know that they were a very successful, thriving nation. You look at Menelaus, which is an island where the term Minotaur comes from. Apparently, they were an insane seafaring people. The ancient Greeks dealt with them a lot. They were very well respected, well known. The only thing we have to show anything about these people now is a labyrinth that was built in their inner sanctum of one of their temples.
You're talking about Crete?
No,
That lived in the island of Crete?
I believe so, but the people themselves, we call them the Menelaus or whatever because of the Minotaur.
Yeah.
I have no idea who these people were.
But I think you're talking about Crete. Yeah.
think so. But my point is that was a massive seafaring people who mastered the sea at a very early dawn of humanity time frame, and we know nothing about them or the technology that they found because we just don't fucking know.
Well, you know, the Chinese were in Australia and in the Americas over 1,000 years ago. And look at a picture of an American. No, sorry. Look up a picture of a galleon, of a European galleon, and then look at a picture of a Chinese ship. This is the size of the European ship, and like the size of the Chinese ship is like 6-7 times larger.
The
Chinese were way more advanced than the Europeans.
The junks, they were huge compared to the Spanish galleons.
Spanish galleons are little toys.
Yeah. Yeah, compared to the Chinese junks.
I would say this as far as, or again, this is a respectfully disagree with you as far as the Chinese being in Australia. Now, if you're talking about trading with Australia,
there's Chinese boat on. So this is fascinating why they say that. There's a Chinese boat on top of a mountain. So what happened was an asteroid impact came to Earth, hit the water where the ship was, and the ship was lifted all the way on top of a mountain. There's you can find up the story. I think either in Australia or New Zealand. You can find it. There is a Chinese ship on top of a mountain that was dragged up because of an asteroid impact that just made a giant tsunami and just made it go up.
Oh yeah, got it.
That's pretty dope. I was actually talking about as far
really
as
fascinating.
We're looking at Aboriginal Australians, they're actually black. So I was like, okay, I don't believe the Chinese settled there, but as far as trade, like you're talking about,
yes, and that's what I mean. It's like I'm not saying this is the thing. I guess it wasn't successful because they got killed in the tsunami. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They went and then they got murdered by the tsunami. So Jim Bob will probably find it soon because he's now probably searching. But yeah, the Aboriginals of Australia that have been there potentially for over 100,000 years are being genocide in Australia till this day.
So wild, bro. The Aboriginal people, so they lived in the outback where literally 90% of the wildlife is actively trying to kill you.
And they survive.
Survived there, thrived. Then all of a sudden, England's like, hey, we're going to dump a bunch of convicts here, and it's no longer our problem. Then one thing leads to another. They lose 2 wars to a bunch of birds. It's this whole thing that happens.
They brought rabbits and they brought frogs and cats.
I still can't believe they lost the Emu War twice.
They have a cat problem to an extent that the government will pay you to hunt them.
What?
Yes, in Australia, the government pays you to hunt cats. You have to bring evidence. You guys
would have had fun on here the other day with my Aussie buddies. I had two of my buddies from Australia on here Saturday. We were picking on him about his emu problems.
I tell you what, though, I just discovered that iguanas are now a problem in certain places, and you can go
on. In Puerto Rico, that we are just killing all of them, and then we're exporting the meat to other countries now. So there's a couple of companies that they're like, we're just hunting them and selling them to other countries.
I didn't even know this was a thing. Apparently, iguana meat is a fucking hot commodity, bro.
Yes, and in other countries, yeah, they love it.
And these guided tours in Florida right now, man. These air rifle little guided tours. You just pop iguanas and then grill them up for you at the end of the day. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? I didn't even
Because
know.
iguanas are very, very dominant species. They can literally live almost any. I mean, the fact that they survive winters in Florida because they just stay in place and like go into a semi-hibernation, like they are very big survivors. If 100 million years from now, I can see iguanas taking over the world.
I can see it. I tell you what, though, I definitely want to try some. From what everybody says, it's very much like what I would consider snake to taste
You're
like.
close. So I'm sure there's some iguanas in Louisiana by now.
To my knowledge, our bayous are iguana free, but if that ever happens,
but I'm sure you can get the meat. Like that's what I mean. It's like you're close enough to supply chain of Florida that you're gonna get some meat available.
I mean, I've had alligator. Alligator's delicious.
That's what I'm saying. So like alligator is kind of a combo of chicken and fish, but super greasy, more on the chicken side. You got snake, which is
how do you cook it? Like the like what's the style of cooking for alligator exactly?
I mean, the standard go-to is deep fried, battered and deep fried. It's because gator is a very greasy meat in and of itself. Deep fried.
It's like has a high fat content.
It's super high fat content. And then you also look at, like I was saying, iguana, snake, also super low fat content.
If you think about it, when you eat an alligator, you're eating a dinosaur.
Oh yeah, you're eating an apex predator that has survived for the last 3 billion years, give or take. Like, for sure.
Dinosaurs are definitely fake,
and that's why we fuck with them. Hell, my brother will jump out of the boat and jump on a 5-foot gator just for the fuck of it.
No, I would say that the early history of dinosaurs is a bunch of crockery. So I do agree that there is some discrepancies, but there was a recent Joe Rogan had a guest that has one of the largest reservoirs of, because they own the land and they started excavating, of creatures from 11,000 years ago, from when potentially the Younger Dryas event happened, like the big flood. And it's like an enormous amount of animals. We're talking thousands of animals. It looks like probably the flood grabbed all those animals and just threw them all in this basin. Very fascinating. If you want to find, I'll try to think of the episode, but I'll report it in the link because it's fascinating. You just hear about it. It's like crazy the collection they have. Bigger than almost any museum I've ever seen.
Hey, I need to cut in real quick. I need to cut out early, guys. But hey, I would really hope that you guys will come back onto the show if we ever get a chance to like do it a little bit earlier our time. I hope to catch you guys again.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude, definitely.
And Bandit, I appreciate you joining us for a while.
Man.
Evening, man. I'll catch up with you after a while. Thank you for hanging out for a little bit.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Have us back on the show anytime, for real.
Oh, man. We don't. That's the great thing is we don't have to cut out. Occasionally, sometimes some of our co-hosts bounce in and out. That's kind of the pleasure I think of having multiple co-hosts. Like when I started this, I was all over the place, and I knew everybody couldn't get in with me on the nights that I could do it. So I started kind of recruiting and made us bigger. And now, even if it's just one other person, I usually have somebody else to come in here and sit with me. And it's just because I really appreciate different points of views, like me and Luis definitely come from different walks of life, but like we can both come to agreements on some things, even if we don't agree with it, just like you guys down here, which I find that beautiful. I think your guys' chemistry is just amazing. Like I had found you because of what I call my podcast family over on Instagram. There's just so many awesome podcasters over there that I've had in and out on this show and stuff like that. And because of them, I stumbled across you guys and checked you out a little bit and was like, oh yeah, these guys are going to be great. I can hold conversations with these fellas. Like you guys take a lot of what I believe and then what we have believed around the show and mix it into just the two of you. And I think that's a feat of its own. So I think that's great. Like
it's a winning combo, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's gone well for us thus far. You know.
Oh yeah, man. And I've always leaned on both sides of things. Like I will say that no offense to you or anything like that, but I'm not big into there's an ominent all-knowing sky daddy somewhere. Like I can't grasp that one.
I get that.
But like I am a lot into that spiritual realm. A lot of people, I make the joke quite frequently that I'm married to a witch. That because she's
Oh.
big into, like she practiced a lot of herbalism and stuff like that.
You were just cutting out, Jim.
My
Yeah,
apologies. Am I better now?
No, pretty bad. It's like I got
There we go.
married to a witch, but
And
it's like, whoa.
No. All right, I'm back now. I apologize. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, I make that joke frequently. That I'm
our
married to a
internet's
witch.
getting attacked right now. So
She's into she's big into herbalists and natural living and stuff like that, and we a lot of that in a technical source is witchcraft, but we look at the aspects like you're over there looking at where like these are all these practices to get to the same answer. You see it across the board in all these different religions, and some people call it black magic, some people call it evil, some people practice the same exact thing even if they don't realize that it's the same thing that they're calling evil. And like chakras and alignments and stuff like that, like people
you're
are
cutting
people
out,
are
Jim.
all over the
Crazy again. Although I want to say this in regards to what he was talking about is
what is going on.
Jim, you're cutting out. You just cut out for a few moments.
I will say this though, in regards to what you were talking about, being a witch and herbal living, which is more or less Wiccan and more or less the basis of what we know now as medicine, which started out as alchemy, all of that. Even as a Christian, I fully believe that we have everything on this earth to cure whatever the fuck we could come up with. We may not know how to use it to the advantage that we need, but I fully believe we have literally
access
everything
for sure for almost every possible iteration of a cure. It is the tapping into that ability to access it properly and disseminate and spread it around as a message. I mean, just my friend who is a Chinese medicine practitioner, she heals people in ways that, like, I just seen hundreds of testimonials that you're like, what the hell? So she can cure chronic diseases just by small interactions and a few herbs that she mixes up together. I mean, she studied a lot for this as well, but the fact that she's being sometimes more effective than people that studied the mainstream 300. I mean, it's because Chinese medicine has been around for thousands of years.
Chinese medicine, if you really look into it, in the sense of what it looks like in modern times, not what we read about on the scroll.
No. There's a lot of great science in it. Like, people are like dismissing it because of the language.
Right.
The language, that's the problem that breaks it apart. When they're speaking about it, you're like, that doesn't sound any way scientific, but there's science to it. It's just they're also hearing a translation. You're not hearing it in Mandarin or Cantonese. You're hearing a translation, and Cantonese Mandarin, to begin with, the framework of the language is different.
But not just the framework of the language, but the framework of how they were writing it as well, man. These guys, anybody who was educated around that time frame, they weren't writing down recipes like that. They were writing more or less poetry. You know what I'm saying? They were so enlightened in so many regards. They were writing things down in a way that we look at now. Like you said, we may not understand exactly what they meant, but man, when you look at Chinese medicine, especially in the world of today and how it can really benefit all of us, it is fascinating.
And see,
It's far closer.
I get in. Everybody goes Chinese or they go, Wiccan or stuff like that, and I'm about to throw a curveball at you. Ours is more in the realm of ancient India, not Hindu, but just ancient India in general. And there's
1.4 billion of them, and there's
so
actually going to be more of them in the future. So they did something right.
There's so much of that ancient India because Luis, you referenced it earlier about some of Jesus' practices and stuff like that, and historical record and such of him in India. Not so much on the Muslim discredit end, but just him practicing kind of what is now called Hinduism in some aspects, even though there's some iffy things there. But like, I've seen that there is
talking about not the Sikhs believe us.
Yeah, and I see, and And I see though that like these herbs and stuff like that, like I'm big into going back to nature, period. Like we joke a lot about part of the part of when society splits, you're gonna have people like Luis would be down to like use a lot of technology and advanced and
You're cutting out again.
well, I don't know what this is the only thing that's running, so I don't know what's going on with my stuff. Like
I don't know.
Try to see if anybody else is using the internet heavily, like real heavy. I don't know.
I was gonna say, do y'all edit this afterwards? Do y'all just full send whatever comes out?
I just full sun.
No, he can edit. Well, he sometimes can edit because he has edited before.
What do you
Oh,
mean?
nice.
What do you mean sometimes?
Well, they're spinning people and things that
There
can
was
happen.
there was a within the first 45 seconds of an episode, somebody dropped a hard R that they shouldn't have dropped.
Oh,
Yeah,
For
Okay.
no real
For no
reason
reason.
of logic.
for no reason, just
Okay.
to use it.
time out. Time out. Time out. Are y'all?
No, but it's
Are y'all on
episode.
YouTube?
Wasn't it that one that was the like
All right.
they was unlisted through BitChute? I think BitChute unlisted that episode. That was exactly BitChute unlisted the episode. So the thing is, regardless, there's certain words that every system is gonna look at it and say, you know what? No. So it's better to avoid it because anyway, it's unnecessary language. It's especially coming from the person that said it. It was completely unnecessary.
Like that.
Yeah, there's no need for such derogatory comments like that. I mean, that's not what any of this is about. You know?
Anyway.
Yeah, you know, I'm not into that kind of aspect. I believe in free speech. I believe you can use whatever words you can use, but if there's no reason to just get derogatory other than you're just kind of a rude person, then I'm just, you know, something like that. Yeah, I did my best to edit
Yeah, I think
that
it was
because
just literally for shock factor.
there was just issues there. But I mean, you know, I see these aspects, you know, I keep going back to this and I'm not meaning to, but I see these aspects of this natural based, you know, like you kind of said, everything that we need is here on earth for us already here. And I really believe that the mixture of medicines from the
Oh,
earth,
dang it. What's going on?
I don't know.
Yeah, you're cutting out big time, bro.
And it's weird because when you come back, it's like nothing ever happened and you're back normal. I don't know what's up, man.
No, the thing is, on your side, it could actually all be recording. So we are the dum dums. Like, and the final recording might have you completely normal. We're just not hearing a portion of what you're saying.
You go to edit,
Yeah.
you're gonna like make a solid fucking point, and then we're gonna cut to like a whole different conversation. You make a solid point, cut to a whole new thing.
Because we couldn't hear it.
I'm just, you know, hey, you're
Right.
just dropping these mic drop situations. We can't come back on it. We just change subjects that much. That's
Oh,
what's
it's good
happening
though.
here.
Yeah, but I love that you're into the natural healing and just
1000%.
getting back to nature in general. I'm somebody I didn't vaccinate our newest kid at all. No vaccines.
No, none of my three have anything. Like we don't do that route.
Yeah, I just don't believe in the medical system anymore. I don't believe in big pharma. I think that like, you know, if we can get back to there are ways of living out there that have been done for thousands of years. And yes, there's been plagues and whatever you want to call it, but I believe that, you know, maybe those plagues were not brought on by natural reasons. Maybe they were brought on by the people who were trying to push the medicine. This whole
So I will say something fascinating, and you can look it up. The majority of all plagues in recorded history came from China. And I mean like 90% of them came from China, including the bubonic plague, which also happened as the little chill happened. And I literally looked it up how long the little chill happened, and I was surprised it was longer than expected, from the 1300s to the 1800s.
damn.
So that caused massive Uh, separated those situations, so they never had plagues.
Well,
so the Americas was way smarter than the entire world.
Well, America also had a couple of centuries worth of history to look at. China, I mean, arguably were one of the
Oh, the Americas had thousands of years. It's just they erased a bunch of it, but the Americas have thousands of years of history. You can look into it. Like we have recorded now more information. They have thousands of years of history. We just have a limited perception of it, but there's thousands of years of history
That's
there.
fair.
Are you somebody that believes in Tartaria?
Tartaria is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't like. I can imagine something like Tartaria existed, and the Mongolian Empire was a rewriting of it.
See, that's what I was about to say. I believe that you and I believe in different things about Tartaria because you think Tartaria means mud flood. I think Tartaria means the Tartars, which is also what later became the Huns, which we now know as Mongolia.
So yeah, just think back to your history class and think there were first the Visigoths and then the Huns and wait, it was the Visigoths, the Huns, and the Mongolians.
Well, the Huns were the Mongolians, but if we're talking about, you're talking about against the Roman Empire?
Well, yeah, when you speak about the collapse, but the collapse of the Roman Empire took a very long time because people don't understand. It was the degradation of the entire system because of the lead poisoning.
What about the plausibility that Genghis Khan was redheaded?
I mean, the thing about genetics that people have learned we got very wrong is that first of all, almost every single possible iteration of a human being exists in Africa. Even blue eyes are naturally occur in a certain tribe of Africa. There's another tribe in Africa has the highest level of of genetic diversity on the face of the earth. They are basically the best type of humans on earth, and they live in Africa. I wish I could tell you the exact tribe, but like they have the highest genetic diversity because there was a portion of time, several times throughout history, that the population of the earth has imploded because of catastrophic disasters. But Africa was just like in the right spot where it didn't get as affected, so they didn't die off. But you can look in Europe and other parts, massive amounts of inbreeding, and that has caused those genetic traits that you see in the European nations. Well, in Africa, you could see it's actually they're well off. They're okay.
Yeah. And I'll give you that. And as far as Genghis Khan being redheaded, I would have to respectfully disagree, strictly because we have multiple paintings of the dude, and
we have iterations.
We have iterations. I'm not saying this. Yeah, we have pictures.
Just like we have iterations of Jesus as a white guy.
Fair enough. Fair point.
And however, the thing is also Genghis Khan also screwed a lot of people. So there's a portion of the planet that's related to him. 6%.
6% of the world's population is a direct descendant of him from coast to coast. That's why I'm going to say I don't believe he was redheaded, because the redhead population of Earth is way under 6%, and none of it comes from that section of the globe. But that's just me, though. That's just me.
See, and I'm also somebody that's actually seen redheaded Asian people, naturally redheaded Asian people.
There is, yeah, so, that is a real thing.
Like I don't know. I'd put plausibility to it. I mean, every time I ever do, this is exactly what I get from all ends of it is, just.
I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'm going to say it's not probable.
Were you getting at that Genghis Khan could have been a
giant,
a redheaded giant?
Yes, it was.
And they called him small because that's more. Well, in Napoleon, perfect example of misrepresentation of their body. Napoleon was tall. He was 5'9". And for that time period, that's tall as hell.
He was not 5'9", man.
Yes, look it up.
Oh, no. This is getting the juju right now. Hold on.
Super
believe it was a 5'9". Yeah, look it up.
At 5'10", I'm a super giant, bro.
That's what I'm saying. I thought.
No, but 300 years ago, that's tall.
Yeah, hold on. I knew that Napoleon wasn't exactly a dwarf by any means, but I thought that he was around like 5'4", 5'3", maybe. Hold on now.
Nope. Minimum 5'6", but for sure, I believe he was 5'9".
How would they know this anyway? Did they find
because he was painted? There's measurements. There's the clothing. The clothing's the easiest way. Remember, there's clothing of the time.
He was 5'6".
Yeah,
Okay,
5'6".
Sorry, I
It's
inverted the 9. But
It's
still,
a British.
he was pretty
It
tall.
says all right. Yeah, I've got right here. It says that for the autopsy stuff, that the dude in somewhere gave him a height of 5'2", but back to doing with the clothes and stuff, he's somewhere between 5'6" and 5'7".
Which per
And
the time period, that's like a slightly shorter than average guy.
No, that's actually the opposite. Slightly taller. Remember the malnutrition and everything. He was actually pretty tall for the time. Like
Wild.
Abraham Lincoln was a giant.
Yeah,
at
no, he was an
6'2".
absolute Mongol.
So now imagine 300 years before that. Sorry, 200 years before that. Yeah, he was actually pretty tall for the time. They just made up that Napoleon complex. They British just made that shit up. It was just propaganda.
Have you heard of the theory that Abe Lincoln was a black man?
Have you heard the theory that Abe Lincoln was actually a psychopath that didn't care about the slaves?
it wasn't. It wasn't a
I've heard
theory.
both.
That's a fact. Lincoln was nothing but a tyrant.
Yes,
Just
it was written
like-
in the documents that if
garbage.
he could have stopped the war without freeing the slaves, he would have.
Absolutely. Right.
And there, yes, the possibility because of his family lineage, he technically could have. I mean, that's not even the first person that technically could have been a black president. So yeah.
Right.
Again, we have
What you would
pictures.
consider today as African American, like black. What you consider black today, yes, it's a possibility.
But at the same time, Abe Lincoln, we have actual 10 type photos of him from multiple different sources. So like, I'm just
No,
gonna.
but we're talking about. Well, the thing is, the features of his face though, it shows gigantism. So you can look up what gigantism is.
Right.
I know friends that have gigantism, but they're more in the 6'11" range of height. His stopped, but there's two types of gigantism: one that stops and one that continues. You never want to have the one that continues because that's how the guy that was not 8'9" died. He died of a simple foot infection because he was so big that his stuff didn't fit him.
Yeah.
He was constantly growing.
But then you also look at Abe Lincoln, dude himself. Yeah, he was also, I would say, he had a form of giantism. That's fair.
It's your pituitary gland just is larger than it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be literally like this big, and his is larger. So your skull physically gets larger, and your body, by proportion, starts to get larger as.
But I also think he had a lot of mental issues as well. If you look at the reports from Mary Todd, bro, apparently Abe Lincoln was super, almost like a NPC for a lot of his entire life. The only time he really showed his quote unquote normal human side is whenever he would roll on the floor with their family cats and purr and meow at them.
I don't think that would be considered NPC. I would think that would be more of a, because NPC just means they have no expression. I would say it's more sociopathic.
Yeah, which he also was interred in a mental institution very early in his quote unquote political career. And the whole time he was just happy as hell, I'm here.
I think you're describing more of sociopathic, because NPC is more of a description of people that just have no opinions.
Well, from what I was told, or not what I was told, excuse me, from what I read from reports of him, he was very monotoned. He very rarely showed emotion. He very rarely showed
sociopath. That describes more of a sociopath.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, it makes sense. There's lots of sociopaths in governance and corporations, because that's kind of the only thing that rocks their boat.
Oh, what was that thing about Lincoln that the Family Guy episode brought up, talking about the slave gladiator dome, that he didn't exactly free all the slaves? Come to find out, was actually based on some real things. He had fucking Mandingo fights sanctioned under his command or whatever, after the slaves.
Jim, could you show us that? That's crazy. Could you elaborate on that insanity? I mean, that's crazy. When was this happening in relationship to his presidency or in relationship to the war? Do you guys remember timeline wise? Was this before, after, in between, way before?
All the above. Which is very crazy, because Robert E. Lee, who was blasted as being this horrible tyrant of a slave owner, he actually didn't own any slaves. The slaves that he inherited from his wife's family, he actually freed and hired them to be his workers.
Robert E. Lee was. So, okay, that's a good way of rewriting a message. Robert E. Lee actually freed the slaves that he inherited.
Well, here's the thing. Robert E. Lee, the North wanted him to be their general, but whenever he was approached by the Union, he couldn't, because Virginia had seceded, and he was from Virginia, and he could not fight his Virginian brethren.
Why do you think, to this day, Robert E. Lee is so this horrible racist?
Well, it depends on what side you're looking at, right? We have this we have the obvious spin story of the North that every single Confederate was a slave owner, everyone was a horrible Satanist, and all of this shit, right? But then we also have this lost cause fantasy, especially in the South, especially when you have like the reenactments and shit that make it out to be that these Confederate generals were good, sanctioned Christian men who were just trying to uphold their Southern values. And yes, slavery was a part of that, and it was bad, but that wasn't the main goal. And you know what I'm saying? Either way you look at it, there's a false narrative.
There's more nuance than the idea of slavery. There was also a trade issue that was related to the power dynamics of the North and the South. And to begin with, like, the war was fought basically between European weapons and the North's weapons. So the North had their own weapons, and the South had to buy them from Europe. So basically, the North had all the factories and all the technology, but the South had all the manpower.
Well, for a time they did anyway. But then we had a couple of really, really big losses. Couldn't really bounce back from them. Robert E. Lee made a very critical mistake at a very critical time, and that was pretty much the death stroke for the Confederacy. But beside the point,
history is written by the victors.
That's exactly
that's like what it all boils down to.
Exactly.
And that's why whenever anybody is trying to referencing anything historical that there's not really a lot of proof on, it's hard to believe. You know, whenever we talk about which of these characters were black or white, or what color was Jesus, anything historical, it's always just going to be a lie agreed upon.
But that's the thing. We have to then see, okay, so what was the discussion back then? That's really where you can get to the crux of like the discussion. And that's the fascinating part. Imagine finding like real like news discussions on the subject, because there was also yellow journalism. So even back then there was a form of propaganda that was really retarded. Like yellow journalism, just read some old stuff. It's really ridiculous.
There is quite the amount of like journalism stuff and things out there of people talking about how much of a tyrant that Lincoln was because of his constant moves into just doing things the way that he pleased. And there was quite the big pushback, and I will always I'll stand on that hill with you there, man, that something that was only affecting 6% of the American population at that time was definitely not the cause of the war. And there's always a book I quote quite frequently on here, and I've been tracking for years, and I finally actually got a copy of it and through PDF and stuff after looking for things, because I had seen it at one point in time.
The book that is like $4,000.
Yeah, and so when I first ran across it, it was a couple $100s. A few years down the road, it was like almost $1,000, and I happened to make a TikTok video about it being almost $1,000, saying this is how they suppress information. They make it unreachable for the average person to get their hands on it. And then when I finally found a copy of the book again, a hard physical copy of the book, it was over $5,000 to get a copy of this book. And it took me some time searching again, and I did finally run across it in PDF thanks to my co-host on Makes You Think on Saturday nights on the Red Pill Project. Vince hooked me up with this page that gives me PDFs whenever I can't find things. And this book not only depicts the stories about Lincoln definitely being a tyrant and people being against that and against a lot of what he was doing, but it also depicts and has old school 1800s style pictures of white slave children, because if you were born a slave, regardless of your color, you were a slave.
So I will mention on that, in Puerto Rico, we were taught there were white slaves, but evidently I was talking to you and I was talking to other people. Evidently, most Americans don't know there were white slaves.
They tell you that
how the hell do you not know there were white slaves? Obviously, they were not the majority. There were white slaves. A substantial amount of them. Europe.
So no one really knows about the story of Oliver Cromwell. No one really knows about.
I know Oliver Cromwell. I do know.
I think it's because I come from Puerto Rico. They were like, "Yeah, we're gonna tell you the truth."
The Caribbean islands, especially, man, Puerto Rico, Tortuga, Barbados, tobacco plantations, sugar plantations. A lot of the white Irish indentured servants, quote unquote, indentured servants, that were being essentially their indentured servant contract was being sold to a plantation owner in Barbados.
I'll mention as well. A white person going into the Caribbean. After just imagine like they're all white and they all reproduce between each other. They'll still turn dark. Like people don't comprehend the simple explanation that if you take a equator, they will turn darker. You take a very dark person from the equator and you put them in Norway, in a few generations, they will be very white or they will be very dark. It's because of the exposure to radiation from the sun.
I will say this much, though, speaking on behalf of all the people with some thick Irish blood in them, the sun is not our friend. It's going to take more than 4 or 5 generations to go from burning.
No, but it's progress. Yeah, it happens because it happens to my mom. Like my mom, like she told me, it's like I was whiter before, like, and she just progressively got darker. And after when you have very long term exposure, you are progressively. I've gotten whiter again, but I was naturally darker. And when I get like a lot of sun, I'm way darker. I turn like a whole shades darker. That's crazy how much I turn. And my other friends, there's a few friends, we turn like massive shade. Like it's a crazy spectrum we change.
See, I have 2 tones, dude. I got pasty, I got lobster. There is no toning off. There is no using enough sunscreen. Nah, dude. It's just is what it is. I'm wearing flannels year round. In the summertime in Louisiana, I'm still rocking flannel and jeans.
Even without the flannel and jeans,
randomly around that, the term redneck that was made like a random slur. Rednecks were the people that were protesting, the first protesters that came from the mines of the South. And rednecks was related to the red bandanas they were wearing to identify themselves as they were fighting the coal mine. They basically made the unions. Rednecks created unions.
Basically, yeah, that was the first time that the coal.
So the rednecks are actually a positive force on the earth. The original rednecks.
I still think rednecks are a positive force on the earth today. I'm just gonna throw that.
But I mean, like historically, they were a very prominent, powerful force against powerful establishment of protesting against in relationship to coal mining.
I hear
in
you.
The South, I believe this was, like the Carolinas.
We have so many different versions of people in Louisiana. We got rednecks, we got coon asses, we got Creoles, we got Cajuns, we got all kinds of mixes in this motherfucker. I'm gonna be real.
Are you guys like Louisiana, born and raised Louisiana?
So I am.
No, I'm originally from Pennsylvania. But we moved down here whenever I was 16. So I've been down here as long as I was in Pennsylvania. I've now been in Louisiana as long.
Okay, so now you're both. Yeah.
I'll say he's at least got a little bit of some Cajun in him for sure.
Yeah.
The spice.
I'm about to say, you know how to flavor your food. So, I mean, you got points in that regard as well. That's more than most white people can say.
I do love spicy shit. It's my favorite.
I mean, Jim Bob's cooking, dude.
I'm not saying all. I'm saying the vast majority of white people need to, at one time in your life, let somebody from a different culture introduce you to some spices that you didn't know about before.
What do you think Latinos cook all the food, dude?
I'm big. My top 2 foods are Caribbean and Middle Eastern. Like those are my go-to for a lot of things because I just love. I've spent a lot of time with some Guineas people and stuff, and they mix a lot of that together anyway, like Indian food with Caribbean food and stuff.
I mean, and the Guyanese, it's the influence from India, actually. The West, and that's why they call West Indies, like the West Indians, the Indian influence in South America is enormous, especially in Guyana. It's very big because they're actually, I think, over 15% of the population.
Yeah, East India Trading Company. That was a big post that they made. So these ships were coming straight from India, straight on into that into Guyana. So you got
in today's value, I think they were estimated to be valued around 7-8 trillion.
Fucking hey, man!
As a private company with its own military, obviously.
Their own military, their own network, their own fortifications. They had whole wars, bro. The opium.
Well, they lasted hundreds of years. The East India Trading Company, I think, lasted for like 300 years.
$4,795 for the book that I was speaking of a little earlier.
Forgotten Cause of the Civil War, a new look at the slavery issue.
Whoa. Now that's a hefty price tag.
What was the main reason for the small amount of prints? It just became prominent later after
the photos of the white slaves is the reason they canceled this book.
were these in fact white indentured servants, or were these the half breed offspring of like a Thomas Jefferson situation
that were brought?
There were.
And there were the indentured class, which is just slavery with extra trickery.
Right.
Where like, yeah, come over here, work for 20 years, and then you're free. I'm like,
it's still slavery with a different flavor.
Mhm.
Let's be honest.
I mean, we have that slavery today.
Now that's what I'm asking. Like, you know, especially with the tin type, the black and white like this, I'm wondering if a lighter skin tone of a, for instance, mulatto skin complexion with that flash in the pan might look white in the tin type, or if that is in fact like an Irish indentured servant. I don't know either way.
I would tell you, based on my knowledge with photography and that type of black and white, part of the reason you see that special reflection, especially in the darkest tones, I've seen, for example, there's certain people, especially in North Africa, their darkness, their reflection is silver tone. So, like, you know, when you get sunshine on you, it's like a whitish, like, but sometimes like it differs. But when they get sunshine, it's like a silverish tone. So it's basically they have natural sunblock that we don't have. And that is an advantage in many situations. And actually, what's funny with the eyes, when you have blue eyes, it like everybody can have blue eyes. It's the lack of melanin in your eyes.
Wow. So the only place
you can get surgery to turn your eyes blue or green. So in India, they're starting to do that. Basically, they remove the melanin in your eye and they turn your eyes into lighter tones. That's a surgery that you can find that's being done in India all over the place.
That's what Vin Diesel did in Riddick.
No, but I mean the surgery to make it permanent.
You know, a little shine job in jail for 20 menthol cools, if I'm not mistaken, was the going rate.
Yeah, for the basically what was it, night vision?
Yeah, essentially. Sorry, I'm a bit of a movie nerd. Anyway,
I believe all cools are menthols.
I don't know
all
why.
All cools are menthols. No, wait, no, there's red cools. There's red cools. Nope, there's red cools.
Is there?
What?
I believe I've seen them. Yep, look at them.
There's
There's red Newports.
Yeah,
I knew about the red Newports.
Yeah.
In the movie,
I believe there's red I believe there's red. It might be my brain just making it up, but maybe red. Look, just look it up.
Why would he even mention that they were menthol cools in the movie? I was like, why would that's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But maybe I didn't know they made red cools. Hey, you learn something new every day, gents.
I don't know.
But have you read? So in the US, they don't publish this. The amount of nicotine that is in cools is like 1.5. The amount of nicotine in Marlboro Reds, 0.9. The amount of nicotine in ultralights, 0.3. What they don't mention to you outside of the flavor, it's the intensity of the nicotine. Newport's 1.2. It's a measurement of how much nicotine is in them. And that's why part of the reason they want to ban them is because the nicotine content is extremely high. And honestly, they're really shitty for you. There's no net benefit to smoking a Newport in your life. It's literally poison.
I'm saying, bro, American Spirit Blacks, high nicotine, and they're
no. Those American Spirit also has crap. If you want to smoke clean tobacco, find the sources. They sell them in tobacco shops. Just you got to roll up yourself.
That's what I'm saying. The black pack, because that tobacco is grown right outside of where I work. As a matter of fact, the Perique tobacco is only grown at that one spot. There's only 12 acres of it in existence.
Wow, that's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah. And my like extended family are the farmers that grow it. So I can speak on that one. American
on that version, the black pack, which I never see anyway. So it's pretty rare. I never see the black pack. I see generally the turquoise, the yellow.
The black market for cigarettes in New York is great though. Like when I was in Buffalo, bro, like there's no lie there. You go to the Indian reservation and come back with cartons for a quarter of the price and go make bank on your way back into town.
Dude, it gets down on the res. I'm gonna be real with you.
Oh, dude, like
fuck.
So my parents live out in Arizona, and there's an Indian reservation just not far from where they live. And dude, you can go get a straight up whole carton of cigarettes for like $13.
Yeah,
it's retarded.
But I will say this: when you're on the res, bear mind your fucking manners. You in a whole other territory where
that was
did you see Oklahoma? Technically now is Indian territory. It's Native American territory. Sorry, not Indian. I apologize.
It blew
To any to Native natives, I'm sorry. It's just like the ingrained crap that we were taught. And for example, Navajo is not really their name either. I forgot the original name, but Navajo is Navaja, which is related to the knives. It was a Spanish word. It's an insult. So that's not their real name of the Navajo people. It's something else.
That is
They've
so
taken it and
interesting.
ran with it.
I used to date a Navajo
But that's
Indian.
not their real name.
She was so proud of Navajo
say,
Nation.
they are so
Yeah,
proud.
well, Navajo, but okay, the people, yes, but that's not the term in their language. That was a Spanish word that was then adapted.
Just like Choctaw is not what they call themselves, is what the white people.
For example, they say Eskimo, which is a slur. It's Inuit.
I didn't know that. Okay.
I had to call somebody out. Was like, shh, stop saying it's literally a slur to them, like legit a slur.
Oh, dude, we got
did not
called
know.
out for that.
There you go.
I was unaware. I thought that Eskimo was a label of a type of Arctic tribe. I did not know. Slur. Whoo,
Then we discovered, oops, it was the douchebags that were calling them that. It's Inuit, the Canadian Inuit. I mean, the Canadian Alaskan Inuit. Yeah, because there's also Inuit in Canada.
Yeah. So learned my lesson on that one, which is, it sucks because I actually feel like I'm a little more well versed as far as
if you want to learn about those tribes, there is a photographer that did a very deep dive and a beautiful photography story on their hunting and the food and everything. If you want to explore that, it's truly fascinating. He just literally lived with them, like the ones that literally live the traditional life, lived with them, ate with them, lived exactly the life they live. And it was absolutely beautiful to see that documentation of people living in extreme conditions and how innovative we are. Like, it doesn't matter. You live in the other side of the planet in the snow. They are very, very smart. Humans are very, very smart, adaptive creatures.
that is why we're at the top of the food chain, brother.
For now.
For now.
I mean,
Until the grays or the violets or the reptilians come around.
Except, I brought this up with my Australian friends. Except for that 8% that thinks that they can fist fight a lion, and that 6% that thinks that they can fist fight a bear. Those guys are not at the top of the food chain.
I remember reading and hearing about this report, and it's like, okay, real shit. It was like, what percentage of humans believe they could fight this animal, that animal? One of them was like a vole. And the sad part about that one was like, there's like 10% of people out there that don't believe that they could beat a vole, which is about the size of a fucking small mouse rodent, in hand-to-hand combat. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, I appreciate your honesty that that
you can't beat a rat.
You're so bad when it comes down to fisticuffs that you cannot beat a small rodent that your body weight alone could crush. Okay, sick. Then you get to like a bald eagle. And it's like, okay, keep in mind, that bitch got like 7-inch talons on it. Then
a full-grown bald eagle, if it catches you unaware, could hurt you severely.
Bro, they pick up whole fucking deers and carry them off. Like, I'm sorry, you're not going against
let's baby deers, but yeah.
No, I'm not saying you could carry a grown man off, but I guarantee it could kill you.
It could carry a small child, like a toddler.
Okay,
for sure.
well, we're talking about somebody my size, I guess now, so it could totally carry me off.
Fair.
You're
But
not that tiny, motherfucker.
then you got like a grizzly bear, a silverback gorilla, a lion, and there's legitimately 8% of adults voting people. Let's keep that one in mind. These are people that are allowed to vote. Believe that they could take on a silverback in hand-to-hand.
Yeah, with a gun. And even then, that's not a very good idea. Some of those creatures. You have a 9mm and there's a full-size gorilla. I'm not betting on you, man. A 9mm will barely scratch him.
I might try to use it to scare him for the noise, and then I'll save that last one for myself, dog. I'm gonna be real with you. That silverback will get real pissed if I start playing around with a 9mm.
9mm will barely penetrate them. That's how thick they are and how much stronger they are compared to us. I mean, a chimpanzee will rip you apart. Their strength is almost triple our strength.
People underestimate how strong chimps really are, bro. I've seen them rip car tires in half.
Yes.
Do you guys see the human-like chimp that used to smoke and was like borderline like very small amount of hair, so he looked like a human being?
Well, we had a chimp at the local water park, amusement park here. Her name was Candy, and they would give her a pack of cigarettes a week and a 6-pack of beer. Hell, if you just light a cigarette and throw it in there, she loved a cigarette, dude. She stayed there for like 40 years. Blue Bayou, they used to have that chimp.
Yeah.
Before that, she was in another park and did the
they
same
used to
thing.
have to tell you not to give her cigarettes.
Dude, she would
Yeah.
smoke it the fuck.
Still gave her cigarettes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
monkey see, monkey do, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
However-
of course they're gonna find it addictive if we find it addictive.
For sure.
It's not like she had anything better to do with her time. Like she's in a fucking cage with nothing going on. Like, yo, you throwing me a Joe? My dog. What's up?
I mean, what if we're in a cage? We just don't know it.
I think we are, bro.
We're in a dome.
Well, let me rephrase that. I believe that this flesh suit that we call a body.
It could be considered a form of entrapment and an experiment. I mean, I also look up the zoo theory. It's not far-fetched theory that we are being observed by a species of higher intellect and more advanced intelligence, and we're basically the same way we're looking at animals in a zoo. We're inside of planet Earth, and they block the signals related to their existence. We're starting to break the veil of it, but we still can't. And that could actually be a big explanation for a lot of the phenomenon that you see all over the place, especially all of the UFO stuff that's coming out. I don't know if it's a lot of people creating fake stuff or the UFO sightings are getting off the chain insane.
I think both are going on at the same time. And I believe that the reason why Donald Trump made sure to make the Space Force a thing before he dipped out of office. I'm going to throw those out.
Yeah, because they were joking. Like, if there was a president that was going to state that there's aliens, it would be Donald Trump. And the thing is, if you ask him, his answer is the vaguest, but kind of confirming accent. Like, because so was Obama. Obama's answer kind of was like, if I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Meanwhile, Trump is like, by the way, space is a definite fighting frontier. I'm making the Space Force. And by the way, 2 weeks before I get out of office, I'm dropping all of the docs about extraterrestrials. By the way, we've known about them the whole time. Drop, and I'm out this bitch. Later.
So they did not disclose what they were supposed to disclose. They did not. They did not comply with the orders. And I remember there's been sometimes the conversation of when presidents come into office, one of the biggest data dumps is like, oh, this is the shit you can't do. Like the whole spiel of this is actually how this thing actually runs. And that's likely one of the conversations they have.
I mean, that's fair. But I also believe that both are happening, man. I believe that there are extraterrestrials out there. There's some sort of force out there. And I
believe the Minister of Air Defense of Canada.
We don't exactly know what it's doing, but it is emitting a radio pulse. We don't know if it's
Then they were saying that Tesla started listening to that signal and then was kind of freaked out by it. I don't know more about that, but I know Tesla acknowledged the existence of
everybody has acknowledged that it's out there. Nobody can acknowledge what it is, who put it there, or anything about it. Nobody's gone and touched it or tried to board it or anything, or at least that's what they tell us. Yada yada yada. But what I am saying is that we also have a lot of naval pilots that are coming out now and saying that they, in the last 5 years, have gotten a new updated type of radar system, and they're able to see a lot of flying objects that they were not able to see up until this point. And when they get closer, they're able to see with their own eyes these flying objects that no country can account for. The maneuvers that these things are doing, the speed at which they are going, it is impossible by any low laws of physics.
And the thing is, you have outside of California what looks like a base of operations, a USO op. Like, I don't know if you've seen videos of this location. It's a few miles off the coast of California. They're like the USO, the unidentified submerged objects that fly around and go back into the water, is ridiculously high in that region. And there was a documented case in Puerto Rico that for 2 weeks, a whole collective of ships followed a UFO. So this was in the 60s. They were astounded from the sky, and then they went underwater, and then they kept tracking it through radar. But then it went up into space like instantaneously at speeds that they could not. Like, they measured it. It was like 500 knots. It's insane speeds that we can't achieve.
And there's more and more stories like that that are coming forward and more things being confirmed. So when your boy Donnie T was like, yo, we're making the Space Force. I know it's going to sound stupid, but trust me, you're going to want America to have a military presence in space in the upcoming years. I'm not telling you why, but here's the docs.
Do you know how big the U.S. budget is? The real budget, the military, 1.2 trillion.
Oh, easily. I don't even.
That was the budget before Donald Trump. He accidentally said the real budget in a UN conference because he was complaining about how little the Europeans spend.
Here's what I'm going to say as far as the military budget of the number that we're being told. First of all, that's a lie. Second of all, the amount that the U.S. Department of Defense has at its disposal, I want every person listening to understand. We're talking about an unfathomable amount of money, resources, time, materials, expertise.
$1 trillion is an unfathomable amount of money.
In real shit, dude, $1 billion is unfathomable to most people. Like, let's just call that for what it is. If I was to tell somebody $1 billion with a B dollars in their account right now, most people really don't understand that that's now a superpower. You know what I mean? Now,
I mean, so once you're a billionaire, you're pretty much a king.
That's my point. You now have the superpower to make any problem go away because of just something you inherently have. That's a superpower, in my opinion. So when you got an unfathomable amount of money, we're talking trillions with a T that they're willing to just burn every single year.
Yeah. They just had an audit. They couldn't report for several trillions, and they have failed every single audit since they started doing audits.
Oh my God, wasn't it 9/11 Building 7? They were trying to find $7 trillion.
No, so it was so close. It was in the Pentagon. The wing of the Pentagon that blew up was the wing that had all the personnel investigating the $2 trillion, the $2.1 trillion that Donald Rumsfeld mentioned on September 10th. And World Trade Center 7, the interesting part about it is that when an event of such a scale happened in New York, World Trade Center 7 inside had a bunker system. Also, the CIA had offices there, I believe. Like almost every agency had offices there, but it had a bunker system. So it was a heavily fortified building because it had an internal bunker around the 23rd floor. So that's part of the reason why you cannot simply say that it imploded when it was more heavily fortified than every other building around it.
I'll give you, okay. I've never heard that side of it, but I'm gonna be honest with you.
Look it up. Like there was a bunker system inside of the building for the elected officials to go into in the case of a biological attack. We're talking like hermetically sealed.
Okay, so
yeah, look into it. Yeah,
I've said this before, and I'll say it on y'all show as well. I will take every conspiracy I've ever said or thought back right now, confirmed, and I will walk away from it all if anyone can give me a real reason how Building 7 fell when nothing hit it.
It's thermite. I mean, it's the use of explosives. There's no question about it.
And that's all
explosives and thermite. Yeah.
All the people that say the conspiracy heads are just fucking psychos. We don't know what we're talking about.
It's not a theory that it imploded. It's a physical fact when you look at it, and that the fact that no building in modern times that is higher than 8 stories high, because until air conditioning and until certain ventilation systems existed, you couldn't build past 8 floors in most countries because of heat.
I could see that. Sure.
So that's actually one of the main reasons in Europe you don't see a building over 8 stories. It's because heat rises. The top floor, it was unlivable. But actually the Muslim world figured out how to bypass that problem with interesting architectural designs, but that's a whole different thing.
Agreed. But yeah, that's always been my big talking point. If you believe the conspiracies are all crazy and that we don't know what we're talking about, explain that one to me, and I'll walk away from it all. Until that time, here we are, man. Just gonna say that. And I think we are gonna have to wrap up here soon, gents. I don't know how long y'all usually go for, but we usually go for about
hour and a half, sometimes 2. It just varies from time to time. You know, I do appreciate.
We've gone 4 hours once.
We have. You know, I do appreciate the conversation that has been had tonight. You know, you guys have been an absolute blast. I actually can't wait for the next time you come back around, and we definitely love return guests because that's how we make friends, man. And conversations evolve, and you know, in a way, we're trying to build our own little system going here, man. You know, we're all kind of like-minded people, and I think the more of us that connect together, the better off we're going to be there towards the end. Because Bennett had to jump out early, but I know he'd back me up here. If you look throughout history, humanity's been through a whole bunch of crap, but at the end of the day, humanity always prospers and moves forward. Humanity isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and take a break from the doom and gloom every now and then, folks, and just laugh a little bit, because those morons up there that make it look like they're pulling the strings that are a bunch of puppets are just that. Whether it be Klaus, whether it be Putin, whether it be Biden, they're all just a bunch of dorks up there trying to do things that you couldn't probably even fathom to begin with, and they sure as hell don't know how to run a country. So, I wouldn't worry about it too much on too often unless they start threatening each other with bombs, and then make sure you got somewhere good to go. But is there any last minute thoughts, concerns, or anything you'd like to say on where we can find you guys?
Yeah, so we're on all podcast platforms everywhere. You can search for us on, Spotify, Apple, pretty much everything. We also have Instagram at Cult of Conspiracy, Facebook at Cult of Conspiracy. We're on literally everything. True Social, Telegram, TikTok, all at Cult of Conspiracy, except for TikTok is Cult of Conspiracy 37. And for anybody that wants to sign up and watch the actual video of us and not just listen to these beautiful voices, they want to see the beautiful faces that go along with the beautiful voices, you can go to rockfin.com/cult of conspiracy. And it's pretty much it's a free speech platform. Everybody that was banned off of YouTube headed over to Rockfin.
It's a great place, man. Not gonna lie.
It's just the place to be.
And as far as for all of your listeners and your fans out there, I would leave you with this. Okay, I don't care what opinion you may have on whatever topic you may have it on. Okay, if you're going to die on a hill for a stance, let it be a stance that you truly believe in your heart, and that it's not something that you're just regurgitating information of stuff you've been told. If you're going to take your stance, let it be your stance. And that's all I have to say on that.
No, that's beautiful. I love that. And you guys know I will make sure that I have each and every one of these links that go along with getting back to these guys for sure, because that's the way I roll over here. And you guys will get a good look at their face on this episode over here, because you guys can find us everywhere you can watch us visibly that you guys know about: Odyssey, Rumble, and BitChute. And we're audio all over, and I appreciate each and every one of you out there listening and doing so. And of course, a way I've been trying to show my appreciation here recently has been a little bit of a giveaway. But before I get onto the giveaway, I do want to bump over to Luis and see if he's got any final thoughts for tonight.
Just have conversations and discover other people's perspectives, because we can have, like we had today, completely civilized discussion. No screaming, no shouting matches, just the conversation. And then we evolve and we learn from each other different perspectives and different ideas. Just converse.
Just do people
respectful. My apologies. And as far as Rokefin, I'm actually on there on Saturday nights. If you guys ever check anything out over there, I'm on a show called Makes You Think. That's a live show that I do Saturday nights with Vince Taglavia over there on the Red Pill Project. I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and it's always a blast over there doing that. I haven't gotten to the live aspect yet. I got enough going on with trying to keep these things recorded. But it's still a blast, man. But I do appreciate you guys so much tonight. You guys have been kind of exactly what I was expecting, man. Just a awesome group. I can't wait for you guys to come back for sure again. And all those folks out there, I know you're waiting for me to get to it, so I'm going to hurry up and get to it. As you know, we're doing pirate riddles to give away one of these cool Unconstitutional Awakening the podcast stickers. We're going to be having some new stickers soon as we finish giving away this round of them. So you guys know, if you go over there to unconstitutionalawakening.com and find this episode, answer the question or answer this riddle on the episode at the website, and I'll get right back to you so that we can get you one of these stickers. So tonight's question is: he was a famous pirate, the one everyone feared, with a little color and a little facial hair, and this fearful pirate was, and of course you guys just have to leave me that answer and you'll get your sticker. So aside from that, I'll talk to you guys soon. So we're going to weigh anchor and get out of here. Good night, everyone.